There. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, everybody who is joining. Happy Monday. We'll give people a few minutes to roll on in.
I love it. Good morning, everybody. Where are you guys all from that are rolling in? Can they throw that in the
Yes,
chat?
definitely. There is the chat as you come in at the bottom of your screen. You should see a chat box. And click on
Yeah,
that, and you can add any comments that you would like.
yeah, I love it.
I also just put up a poll, Carrie, so we can kind of get an idea as people are joining, if they have an exit strategy in place already.
I love that.
All right, as we get started, or while we're waiting for more people to come in, Carrie, I'm going to ask you a fun question.
Okay, uh-oh.
What's your favorite go-to curly hair product? Because your hair always looks so
Oh
great.
my gosh. Okay, truth be told, there's not one. I don't have one. Like one would
Like a
never do the
cocktail,
trick.
you mix them all.
I went and got my hair done yesterday. I got my hair colored yesterday. Yes, this is not natural. Just like I don't want to burst anyone's bubble, but and I style my own hair. And so I had all the products out, and Michael came over, who owns a salon now. And he goes, "Oh, 7 things." I said, 7 things. So there's not one.
So seven, is there a particular brand?
I use Aveda and Bob back a bottle.
Okay.
There are two products in Bob that I absolutely love. One is called Grip and Grace, and after it's dry, it makes it feel like really beachy. It's like gives it
Mm,
like a beachy feel, like a day old
texture.
beachy feel.
Yeah.
And then there's another one called Plentiful, which I use as a bit of a root boost, which is awesome. So I really love those. But then I have, the gels and the sprays and the
Mhm.
pomades and all the whatnots, you
Okay.
know?
So cannot be duplicated with your own concoction.
I mean, it has to be in a certain order,
Yeah. Okay.
and the
That's
hair has to be a certain level of being wet. So
mm,
there's a lot of things.
okay.
There's elements.
Yeah, I get that. I don't have curly hair though, so I don't have all of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. It's a lot. It's high maintenance.
I wish I did some days though. Have big curly hair.
And I wish I had that. I mean, this is how it goes, you know?
All right. Thanks everybody for joining. As you're coming in, you do have a poll question just for us to get started. We're talking about creating your exit strategy today as a business owner. So take your poll, see, we would just want to kind of see where everybody's at. And maybe maybe you've started thinking about this already, but haven't fully created it. Maybe you haven't thought about this at all. But just want to see kind of where everybody's at.
And also where everybody's from. Do we have a quiet chat group today, or is it just me
Yeah,
sitting over
put in the
here?
chat. You can put in the chat room where you're located or even the salon, your salon name, what city you're in, what state you're in.
Participation, people.
So far, we've got 76% took the quiz, and
Mm.
100% of people said no, they do not have an exit strategy in place. So really good to know for the topic of
A
what we're
good
talking.
audience.
Yeah.
Perfect audience.
Okay, we'll give one more minute and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Awesome. Good. Good, good. Well, I'm excited to be here.
Same, same.
Oh, someone said the chat is disabled.
Oh no. What about you should have you see we have the Q&A box. Maybe drop it in the Q&A
Oh,
box.
yeah, maybe drop it in the Q&A. The name of your salon, where you guys are from.
All right. Well, while we're getting started, Carrie, I'm happy to have you back on.
Thank you.
for everybody that's maybe watching for the first time, Carrie Davis is a former now salon owner who has sold her business, and you owned your salons for, you said 30 years?
32 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
And so we started talking about this a few months ago, and sort of like that journey that you took. And just before we joined, we were talking about salon forums and owner forums that we see in social media and things, and conversations from business owners that are talking about selling their business, and maybe they're in a state of panic, or maybe they've been planning it for a really long time. But we wanted to have this conversation with our salon owners to just have that open discussion of like, what does that look like, and what was this journey for you? So I'm going to hand it over to you, and maybe just open up for everybody and tell everybody about the salons that you had, and what that picture looked like before we even get into
Okay.
selling them.
Awesome. I want to welcome everybody. I see there's like a few people from Boston, from Massachusetts, Texas, Canada.
Love that.
Awesome. Virginia. I love it. Florida. Yeah, great. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for having me again. I love this topic because it's been such a journey for me to get to where I am. I'll give you a little history for those of you that don't know me. I opened my first salon in 1992, and we started with a small 1,000 square foot salon in an upstairs location of a strip mall. And a couple of years after that, we decided to take over the space next door, double in size. A couple of years after that, we opened another location about 20 minutes away with one of my employees. We went into business together to keep the same brand, but take it down to another area in San Diego, different demographic. And a couple of years after that, we opened our third location, about another 20 minutes. So we had one 20 minutes north of the main one, 20 minutes south of the main one. We had three locations, up to 80 employees. So we were always employee based. We never had any renters. And we had a multi-million-dollar company. I mean, from all the three locations, we had a very structured education program. I had leaders in each location, and it was a great business, and a good business model. Not that it was always perfect, not that it always went amazing. You know, trials and tribulations, as you guys all know, whether you have your own little salon or whether you have a salon with employees, it's a journey, and it's a leadership journey on how to run those businesses so that they're profitable. And what I always talk about is, are they profitable without you? And as we go into talking about an exit strategy, I think one thing that we have to think about is, are the business or businesses profitable without you? So if you took your own revenue out, would the businesses still be profitable? Because what are people buying? And I think we'll get more into that, Lori, as we kind of navigate this conversation. But yeah, so I finished selling my businesses as of last year, August 31st of 2024. I'm still doing consulting and now have quite a few clients that are looking to exit, and it's a process. So that's a little bit about me. And it's been an amazing, very educational journey to go through selling not just one, but multiple businesses.
And when you say, is the business profitable without you, just to clarify for everybody watching, like, you mean for owners that are also behind the chair, like their business
Behind the chair, or they're
in a
estheticians
treatment
or
room
massage
service.
therapists,
Yeah.
like that they are a technician
Mm-hmm.
producing, they're doing services,
Mm-hmm.
producing sales. And if they remove themselves from the chair, from the room, whatever they're doing, is the business still profitable? Do you still have profit at the end of the month on your P&L? That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah. So that might be a first place for people to really look at, like, what would that look like if they have no, and it sounds like most people on this call today don't have an exit strategy yet in place. Another thing, just right off the bat, would be, that people might be wondering, is you just said you had multi-million-dollar businesses, right? So like, why would you want to sell them? Why would you not just want to be like an absent owner and have somebody else run them for you? Why did you want to sell them?
That's a good question. A question my accountant asked me. Um, I was ready. I mean, I opened my salon, my first one, I was 27 years old. And, over the years, over 30 years, we opened a few more. We had, like I said, up to 80 employees. And I loved being an owner. And I was not in the salon all the time. I would go visit each one maybe once a week. I had great managers. And I felt like it was time. I was not in a place where I was over it and hated it. And I was just like, done. I always said if it worked out and it was a win win for the buyer and the seller, which was me, then I would move forward. I was never in a situation where I felt desperate to sell my businesses because I loved my staff and the businesses were very profitable. And so, but I just felt like it was time. And I felt like for me personally, I have my consulting business too, that I wanted to dabble in another career while I still had the energy. And so that was a decision that I made. I felt like it was the best decision for myself.
And you don't have to, like, I think that's just, you don't have to wait for like you to retire. You don't have to wait until like your business is at
No,
and like it can be at any time. You just felt like the time was right.
yeah.
Okay. Um, at what point in your 32 years of owning the salons did you start creating an exit plan?
The day I opened my first business. And I know that might sound weird, but I remember, I don't remember who told me because it was so long ago, but I'll never forget somebody saying to me, run your business every day like you're going to sell it. So when I say I thought about selling it from day one, I wasn't feeling like I was actively going to sell it. I was 27 years old. I wanted to build a business and a thriving business for my team and for, the community. But every day that I made decisions in that business financially, how to structure the business, I had in my mind that at some point I want to sell my business. I knew that I wasn't probably going to retire behind the chair because I was a very successful hairdresser. Then I went from doing hair for, well, I did hair for a long time, but when I opened the business, I probably did hair for 15 years. I mean, and I have, multiple locations. And then I started moving away from being behind the chair and working more on the business until I wasn't behind the chair at all. But um, yeah, I mean, in my mind, I always had that one day I would sell the business. And I almost like can't even believe like that day is like right now because it seems like yesterday that I opened my salon. But time doesn't stop for anybody, right? Time just goes.
Yeah, this could potentially drag us down a whole different call, but did somebody help coach you or guide you to like get out from behind the chair? Because that I know is a very difficult thing for salon owners that are also service providers to remove themselves and start giving their clients to other people. Did somebody help you with that plan, or was that something that you thought through, or like what did that look like for you?
I knew what I wanted and I knew what needed to happen because I had multiple locations. And whether you have multiple or one, it's your right to run your business the way you want to run it. If you want to be behind the chair or in the room doing services, completely your right. If you don't, completely your right. There's not a right or a wrong. It's just, is your business set up for you to get a paycheck if you're not doing services? And I think that is where you want to be so you're not held hostage doing services if you feel stretched too thin to try to run the business and have clients. I always want my clients, my coaching clients that I work with, and when I'm doing my Mindset Monday lives, like all these things, I am always preaching that you want to have an option because you love doing it, not because you have to do it.
Mhm.
Back to your question, I did have a coach. I had coaches on and off my entire career because I thought, what is it that I don't know that I'm not seeing that I need to learn? And I think we go through opening a business not knowing what we don't even know. We don't even know what to look for. And so I've always been of the mindset that help me to see what's around the next corner or help me to see what I'm not seeing sitting in the chair I'm sitting in so that I can continue to elevate as an owner, as a leader, um, as a business leader. So I've always reached out for help.
It's a really good point because I think sometimes we think that we only get a coach when we're in trouble or like when we need help with something. But having a coach is also just helping you to see things that you're absent of or that you might be missing because coaches could see a lot of things from a lot of
Oh
different.
my gosh. When I have people call me to do we do like a discovery call before we engage in any kind of coaching relationship. And when I have somebody say, you know what, I just want to elevate my business, like I know there's things that I don't know. I'm like, okay, we can like move forward. When I have people call me, which I also have people call me in crisis,
Mhm,
sometimes you have to go back to then move forward.
mhm.
Right? So, yeah, I mean, I think that intermittently through the course of our careers, it's very healthy to have a coach for sure.
Mhm. So you started this plan from day one, which that was
Yeah.
great advice to go into every day as if you're going to sell it tomorrow, which is because then you sort of don't leave the day with boxes unchecked, right? Like you
Well,
kind of complete.
yeah, I mean, I made sure to learn how to do my financials, how to read them, what they meant, what each line item on my financial statements meant, because the line items on our financial statements, just like on the reports that we pulled from Aura, um, they give us feedback on what our next move is,
Mhm,
right? So for me to be moving through my business and not looking at my financials or consulting my financials to tell me what my next move is, wouldn't be the best case scenario for a business because then you're just making decisions based on feelings, not fact. And
mhm.
we know what kind of trouble that gets us in our
Yeah.
life in general. Forget about business. Um, so yeah, so I mean, I think looking at financials and making sure that the decisions that you're making are continuing to elevate your business so your sales are growing and also your profit is growing because when someone is looking to buy your business, they go back 3 to 4 years.
Mhm,
So you want to make sure that you're running your reports and that you're making sure that your sales are on an increase. No one is going to want to buy a business that is, well, people will buy a business that are on a decline for sure, but at a very low price.
mhm,
And I think our goal today is how do you create an exit strategy where you feel you're getting a great price that's setting you up for whatever next thing you want to do?
mhm. So the plan that you created on day one, how did that shift after 32 years? Like you kept that same plan or that changed over the years?
The That's a great question. The goal was always the same. The goal was the same. I didn't know what that meant 32 years ago because I didn't know how to run a business. You know? So I just I had the concept in my mind, but I didn't know like what it meant. And so as opportunities or crises came about in my business, I tried to navigate those things and continue to elevate my business. And I'll give you an example. I feel to grow a business, especially an employment based business, you have to have a really strong structured education program to build consistency and continuity in the business. Otherwise, people come in from beauty school, people come in, maybe they moved from another state or city, or they're just moving salons. And if there's not some kind of education onboarding program that they go through, everyone's bringing their own habits, their own culture, their own good work or bad work with them. And there is not a culture in the company that's consistent. And so, like, building a really strong education program helps to build your business. It helps to grow sales. It helps to, if you have a walkout, you have a new group of people getting ready to go in that have been trained. I mean, it facilitates the foundation of your business. And we have always had a training program. Now, has it changed over 32 years? Absolutely, it's changed because you first start with what you think is a good idea. You see what's working, not working. And I think one of the characteristics of a great leader is being able to assess, is something working? And if it's not, to pivot. Don't let it take you down a rabbit hole. So we have to always be auditing and assessing our business. And if you don't know how to do that, get a coach that can help audit and assess your business and give you that feedback. So that's just one example of um, making sure that we always had new staff coming in. Why? Because we talked earlier about our sales have to constantly be growing. So we constantly need new people coming in to make sure that that business is growing. If you have people, a lack of retention in your business, and you have staff leaving, it hinders your sales for sure. You have one heavy hitter leave, and you're going to need 2 or 3 newer people coming in to satisfy what that person was producing.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
So just an example of like of one piece. Also, building a leadership team and creating opportunity for people to grow inside your company where they don't think, well, I've done what I can here, and so I'm out of here. I'm going to go down the street to look for my next opportunity. I think it's for us as leaders to be, I mean, when people ask me, was your goal to have 3 locations? It wasn't. You know, I just wanted to open my one location. But as we were growing and getting busier, I started noticing that like I need to create growth and opportunity for people. And I couldn't do that with that one little 1,000 square foot location that we have. I mean, how many managers can you have? How many educators can you have? How many levels can you have? I mean, I had 8 chairs,
Mm.
which was fine. And it would have been fine and easier to stay at 8 chairs, but we didn't. I wanted to create opportunity to grow. And that worked out great for my exit strategy. And we'll talk about that once we get to like the end game where it led me. And that I didn't know where it would lead me, but I know that to continue to offer growth for people puts you in a good position.
I was just going to ask you that. Did you have that in mind that while you were growing locations and growing people and growing revenue, that was ultimately growing the value of your business that you were going to be eventually selling? You had that in the forefront of your mind.
Yeah, yes, but like I didn't have in my mind the whole time that I was an owner for 32 years, I'm selling my business.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have like, well, I'm going to do this and that's going to increase the value. And then when I sell my business, I was doing what I thought was going to be a good business move that would yield growth for people, that would yield sales and profit for the overall company. Um, and I was enjoying my journey. I mean, sometimes it was really hard and it sucked. Let's face it. It's like just managing people is tough sometimes, but I wasn't day to day saying, I'm going to make this decision to sell. I just wanted to have a strong company that would run with or without me. And those were the decisions. I wanted to have my freedom. Like now I have my ultimate freedom, right? But I wanted to have my freedom as an owner to go into the business or not if I wanted, to do hair or not if I wanted, and still get the paycheck that I wanted to get. So how do you create that? You have to create almost like a tiered program where you have people coming up from the bottom and working their way up and then creating opportunity for people that are moving to the top.
Yeah, they're kind of you're growing people to sort of push you out on purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's 100% right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you sort of got, because 32 years is a long time, you're
Mhm.
very, I wouldn't say lucky because you've definitely worked very hard to make that happen. And I think most people do that are in business for that long. As you started getting towards like those last few years, what were some of the concerns that were arising as it became more prevalent to you that, okay, I'm getting ready to sell this? Like, what were some of the concerns that were coming up for you that you had to address?
I don't know if I knew that they were concerns as opposed to curiosities.
Mm.
I'm a really curious person by nature. So I'm always seeking to understand how things work. And so um, I was more curious before I got concerned because first you're like, well, how does this work? And then you're like, oh, okay, well, am I going to find a buyer? And it was, again, curiosity, right? How do you find a buyer? Am I going to find a buyer? Am I going to be able to sell it for what I need in order to say, okay, I'm going to make the move? Because look, I mean, I spent so many years that I wanted to leave in a good position. I would have just kept it because I was making great money and I would go into the locations probably once a week, but I still had my leadership calls. We had our big team meetings. I still was in charge of the finances and all the things. So even though I went in once a week, I was still working right in my office. Um, I think when like the concerns, if I use that word, would come up is when I was in a deal, whether like is this deal going to go through? When I was in a negotiation for the sale of one of the businesses, it's like, is this going to go through? What if it doesn't? All those types of things.
Hmm. When you mentioned being in a negotiation or in a deal, was that by yourself? Did you have support? Did you have lawyers? Did you have advisors? Like, who were you working with when those deals and conversations came up?
Um, I did, I did, and the reason that I pause is I'm thinking back to like when those people folded in, because
Hmm.
different people folded in to the that path at different times. And so I had a coach that initially started helping us. And I was telling you when we spoke earlier that when I started thinking about, okay, you know what, I want to look to see what is the value of my businesses, what could I possibly get for it? Would there be a someone that would want to buy them? It was probably in 2018 or 2019. 2018, probably 2018. And then that's when I started reaching out to different people to say that I knew could help me and that I knew it would be 100% confidential. And I think that's a really big deal. I never talked about ever that I wanted to sell my business. I was looking to sell my business. I never uttered those words to anybody other than the confidentiality of my coach at the time, of course, my attorney, my family. But I knew the ramifications or what they could possibly be if I started talking about that and my team caught wind of that. it
Hmm.
would it would be a disaster. Not because I would ever leave them in the dust or get some crappy owner or anything like that, but out of fear of like, oh, Carrie's going to sell the business, I'm out of here. And I mean, I have people that have worked for me for 20 years, 22 years, like 18 years. I mean, long term
Yeah.
people. And I felt like that was a responsibility I took very seriously to make sure that when I did talk to my team about the sale that had already happened,
Hmm.
that it was done in a way with a lot of love and a lot of security and, in a specific way that they felt secure. And so, yes, I did have support along the way with a business coach, and then a business attorney. Um, yeah, I mean, those I would say were the two people. And then I very carefully sourced out who I wanted to approach for the sales.
And
And
the person that who you wanted to approach, or at least one of the persons, was within the business.
yeah, and I mean, I think again, we'll go back to the day I opened my business was the day I said, I'm going to run my business like I'm going to sell it one day. I didn't know what that meant over 32 years, but I'd say over the last 10 years, it got clear to me that if I did want to sell my business at some point, which 10 years ago I was in no, I didn't want to sell my business, but I needed to position myself 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road to where my best case scenario was a succession plan. And a
Mhm.
succession plan means that somebody that works in my business would be the successor. They would be the one buying it, taking it over. And to me, that felt like they were the culture. They weren't some big box coming in to take over the business. And then I don't know. I mean, would I have sold it to somebody like that? maybe, I don't know. But my ideal scenario, first and foremost, was to have a succession plan with people that I have worked with.
And trust and know
And trust and
yeah.
know the culture, know how the business works, to continue that legacy of the company that I already know people are thriving under that umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
They're making great money, the systems work,
Mm-hmm.
so nothing's broken.
Right.
They get to walk in, personalize some things, and just like roll, And
Mm-hmm.
um, so yeah, it selling a business takes a long time. It's
Yeah.
not like I'm done, I'm over this. I need to find someone to sell my business. I mean, you could sell it like that, and someone could just come in and maybe take over the lease, but I think again, what we're talking about is how do we create a scenario where I'm going to plan, do it the right way, sell my business so that I'm set up to do what I want to do and however long I need to be set up for, or like, whatever that looks like for you,
Mm-hmm.
whatever your life goals are.
Which is why we're talking about this today and putting this topic in the open for
Yeah.
people, because what we were saying earlier is we see a lot of owners who are at a stage where they're so frustrated in their business, or they did have a walkout, or just the times today, right? And then they're like, I'm selling, I'm so fed up, I'm just selling. And then they're doing it reactively and out of an emotional state, versus starting that planning today for what their future might look like, 10, 15, 20 years down the road.
100%. And like, I see this when I'm working with my coaching clients, because I ask my clients when they become clients, what's your ultimate goal? Well, to not be behind a chair or to sell my business. Okay, what's your timeline, right? I don't know, it might be 10 years, it might be 5 years. Some people are willing to do what it takes to get your business to a point where a buyer is going to want to see profit and sales growth. That's what a buyer is going to want to see if they're going to pay top dollar. If they're just going to take over a lease, it doesn't matter what your sales are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if they're going to buy a business where they can walk in and not have to not work, but not have to provide services and still get a paycheck, that takes planning. And
Mm-hmm.
even owners that I have clients that have been owners for, 15 years, 20 years, they're still doing services. And we have to switch that mindset to say, you can do services, but if we removed your services, what does your profit look like?
Mm-hmm.
If your goal is to sell your business in 5 years. So we need to start making decisions now so that you're not last minute, like freaking out
Mm-hmm.
that the 5 years is up and you're like, where are you? Changes need to be made incrementally that support the growth of the company and the growth of you, the owner, so that you can grow into your next level of leadership.
Mm-hmm. I think what you said too about the question that you ask when you're coaching people is like, what is your ultimate goal? That's not something that is like new to people. Like, we get that question asked to us in all aspects of our like health goals. What's your goal? Oh, I want to lose 15 pounds, right? So like, okay, now
Yep.
what are the steps to get there? Like in anything that you do, and then real estate, you want to sell your house. First question you ask, what's the value of my house, right? So some of these questions that you're getting into are not new to us. They're just things that maybe we haven't thought about in this perspective, or of selling your business or your salon. When we talk about the value of your home or the value of your salon, how did you determine that? Like, what if, like, that might be the first place when somebody thinks, okay, maybe in 5 years I want something, like, what can I sell a business for? Because that's a really valid thing too. Like you say, well, do you own your building or you don't own your building? Like, what are you actually selling? Because you're not selling
That's right.
people. You're not actually selling, like, what are you actually, how does somebody determine the value of their business?
So there are valuations that you can have done. And so, I'm going to rewind a little bit, because when we talked about, um, thinking today that I'm going to run my business like I'm going to sell it, right? With that mindset, even though it may be another 10 years or 20 years, running your financials the way they need to be run, clean, upfront, and in a way that you can see what your benchmarks are in a way that you can easily see your profitability. And if you're not profitable, you can go through, know what your KPIs are or your benchmarks or your key metrics so that you can adjust expenses to continue to drop money to the bottom line, which is your profit. When somebody wants to get a valuation of their business, then you would find someone that can do a valuation, and you guys could reach out to me. I have a great guy that I refer my clients to. So when I have a client that says to me, I really want to look at selling my business, I'm like, okay, well, I work with people on their financials anyway. Your financials are clean. Call so and so, and let's see what the valuation comes up looking like. So usually, what they do is they will take your financials, go back 3 years, um, and take out what we call add backs, which is what are the things that I run through my business that a new owner would not have that expense. So as an example, a new owner that's buying my business wouldn't have my insurance expense. If I'm running my car through, they wouldn't have my car expense. If I run my vacations, I'm not saying you should, through my business. If I didn't say I did, you'd pull out travel if it wasn't work related, right? So all of those, they're called add backs, all those things get taken out. And then we can see what the profit is of the business. And you can see what is the average profit over 3 years, which is why I say also that you don't decide one day I'm going to sell my business and you're like start rummaging around to like Facebook groups and how do I sell it and I'm over this. No, like it's a process, right? And because over the 3 years, you want to show that you're profitable, you want to show that your sales are growing. So when you get this valuation and you see what is my average profit, you get your average profit over a 3-year period. And then we look at, well, what is our industry going for? And they call it a multiple. Are they going for a multiple of one, meaning like, okay, well, my average profit was $50,000 for the year, and a multiple of one would be then I could sell it for 50,000. A multiple of two would be, oh, I could maybe sell it for 100,000, right? So you get your average, and then you figure out your multiple. People usually say that our industry goes for a multiple of 3 to 5. So I have never seen a business sell for a multiple of 5 personally. So I'd say anywhere between 3 and 4, a multiple of 3 or 4. So taking your average profit and you get to multiply that by 3, and you can look at a starting point. It's like a house. You could say, well, I want to sell my house for this amount, but if you don't have a buyer that's willing to pay that amount, then you may not sell your house or you need to lower the price. And it's the same thing with a business.
And same as like getting it appraised, just like you would a valuation on your business, right? Like it has to appraise for the amount that you want to sell it.
Yes.
The valuation has to come back within that range that you want to sell it also. And just
Yep.
to clarify too, you're saying profit, so not to be confused with revenue. Revenue is what you're
Correct.
bringing in, but what are you spending out? So that there's a difference there. And I just want to make sure I call that out because it's not just about the money that you're bringing in revenue. It's
It's
after
what's left.
your expenses and all of the things, and what is your actual end of the day take home profit of the business.
That's right.
Okay. Because I know you used Aura in the business and you're talking about making sure you have these line items in place. What were do you remember what were some of those key reports like when you were looking at the revenue you're bringing in, the profit that you were having, when you were looking at the valuation of things with somebody? What were some of the key reports that you were looking at or that we can share with people to say, like, with this goal in mind, these are some of these key metrics that you want to be paying attention to?
Well, you're going to have to help me out with the names of the
Okay.
reports because I hate to admit this, but I would call my manager. I'm like, can you send me that one report that does this?
Yeah.
Right. So
There's a couple that I'm thinking in mind.
you
So
tell me, like, and then I'll know if that
okay.
is it. Like,
Okay.
okay,
So obviously like your sales report. So all sales
yes,
brought in, right? Would you want to look at your comparison report? Is that helpful to
a
see like year over
100%.
year?
Yes. Yeah. And I
Okay.
love to be able to look at that on the dashboard.
Yes. Yes.
Super important because again, like when we go back to looking at our financials, a potential buyer is going to want to look back. They're going to want to look back over the years to see,
Mhm.
oh my God, this is a company that's
History.
growing. Yeah,
Yeah, history of that.
yeah.
One that may or may not, I'm curious, did you look at a productivity report? Was that impactful to see how productive your service providers were during a period of time? Does that make any impact?
The productivity report is something that we used for a coaching tool for the team,
Okay.
more so than looking at that for a sale. Because at the end of the day, someone that's buying it wants to look at your overall revenue, what's left after that revenue. They're not looking at like, well, how productive are you? They might be once you get into the negotiations to say, how much room is there for us to grow? If I
Mhm.
took it over and here's where the sales are now, and you're operating at 60, 65% productivity, okay, we know that the goal, the benchmark would be 85% productivity. So we see that we can grow even another 20%. You're not maxed out.
Mhm.
So I think once
Yeah.
that also would be, now that I think about it, like a great talking point when you are talking to a potential buyer is to say, look, we're already here. The profits, our sales are here. You could see the growth. The profits here. You could see the growth and profit. And icing on the cake here is that we're maybe for you, maybe not for us, but we're 60% productive. You still have another 20, 25% that you could grow to hit benchmark, industry benchmark. And so look at then what is available for your sales. So yeah, in retrospect,
Yeah.
I think that would be a great report for talking points.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if any of these things come in as like risk assessment potentially as a buyer of thinking like if they were to look at something like that, or even the sales report, do they break it down by provider or by employee? Do they say like, Carrie is 85% booked and 90% of the sales come from her? Is there a risk that Carrie goes with the owner and then now the business that I bought has an entirely different valuation? If
I mean,
that's
I
some,
think as a buyer, I would be asking those questions.
yeah,
As a seller, I'm surely not bringing that up.
right, okay.
But 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 what does get brought up that's an organic thing to be brought up, especially when you're getting your valuation, is you pull your sales out. Because if you're going to sell your business, and I could be wrong, you guys could disagree with me. I have not seen some glorious working arrangement that after the owner sells the business and they stay in the business, and it's just like peaches and cream. I just don't see it. And so in my mind, I would be saying I will be exiting the business after the business sells. Okay. Unless it's a buy down.
What do you mean by
If
that?
the sale is a buy down where it's like you find a buyer that's going to buy down, like or maybe it's someone that works for you and it's like, okay, well, every year I'm going to give you this amount until
Okay.
okay, it's a buy down.
A,
There's
a,
buy
a
downs.
land contract, a lease to own deal, right? Similar to that?
Yes, yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yes. There's buy downs. There's installment sales where you're the bank, and there's a million different ways to schedule a sale, and that they completely buy you out with a down payment, but you get paid over time, or they go to SBA and they just pay you out, right? Like to get a small business loan. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can sell your business, not just one. And I think it would behoove anybody that's looking to sell their business in the next few years to hire a coach that knows what they're talking about exit strategies, to look at what are all the different ways so that when you are possibly looking for a succession plan with somebody, you're able to uh, first of all, sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, where they're not going to talk about it if you do approach somebody, but also that you're just familiar with different ways people could buy your business if they are working for you. It doesn't just have to be black or white. Does somebody have $1 million or $500,000 or $100,000? Do they have it or not? It's not that. It doesn't have to be that black and white. I sold my business in different ways. I had two of them that I sold. Um, and they each got sold differently in a different way. They weren't both buyouts. They had their own little unique elements to them. So yeah, so educate yourself so that the more you know, the better decisions you can make as you start moving through the process.
Okay. So far within this plan, we've talked about number one, get a coach. Like, don't wait until you're in trouble. Don't wait until you're ready to end. Like, start working with somebody that has a perspective on the industry, can have an outside looking in vision to work with somebody. Get out from behind the chair. Like, if that's your goal, how do you remove your revenue from that business? Work your
Or if you love doing services,
Mhm.
just be able to look at the business in two ways. Like, okay, here is the business with me doing services, and maybe I hire a manager to do the things that I don't have time to do because my passion is to do services. That's perfectly fine. But the second way you want to look at your business is, let me pull my revenue out, pull my payroll out, and then just see what it looks like too. So you don't that doesn't have to be your goal, but you
Mhm.
want to be able to look at it both ways, because if you sell your business and you are exiting the business, that is exactly what a buyer is going to look at. Is like, if you're the main producer, which a lot of times owners are,
Yeah. Yes.
right? So yeah.
And that's a good point and valid, because I do know, even within Aura, we do have some salon owners that is their passion. That is like, they will not get
Yeah.
out. That is, they do not want
Yeah.
to leave that. They love
Yeah.
that. So that's very valid. We talked about getting evaluation done of your business. So contact Carrie. Will make sure you have a contact, or if you know somebody, just conduct evaluation. And it doesn't mean that you have to be ready to sell today to go through evaluation,
No.
right? It sometimes is just good to know where your business stands
Yep.
everyone's around. And then get your reports in order. So make sure you're looking at your key metric reports, pay attention to your dashboard, kind of know where your sales stand, monitor that on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually basis. So, okay, once you determine you're selling, you got all these things in order, you talk to an attorney, you kind of got somebody lined up. What did sort of this transition period look like for you? How did you communicate this with your team? How did you, like, what were the steps that you took once like sale is ready to go? Like, what did that phase look like?
Well, I think after you figure out um, the value and the people, like, you got to find your people, right? And your people could be inside or they could be outside. So if they're inside, you gingerly figure out how you're going to talk to someone that could be a potential owner. If it's outside, then you'd probably work with a business broker that would help you to broker your business to sell it. So you're either going to find your people inside or outside, right? Um, Once you find the person that is interested in purchasing your business, then this is what I would do. I'm not saying you would or you have to, but this is always my recommendation, that before you would talk to them, that they sign an NDA. So you would get a non-disclosure agreement so that they are not talking to anybody else in the business. Again, I just like cringe if I think that like word got around, and I mean, it would just like, it could ruin a deal before you even start a deal. So you could have this thriving business, word gets out that you're going to sell your salon, and then all of a sudden people start quitting and you have nothing to sell. I mean, that would just be like the worst case scenario. So as much as we like to talk, I suggest, try really keeping it to yourself, to your family. Um,
Or as much as you think you trust this person, also like really business is business, right? And like do it anyways.
yeah. And I want to also say, like, um, approaching somebody about possibly taking over your business that works for you is also a delicate conversation that you wouldn't want to say, I want to talk to you about this. Can you sign this NDA? You just don't go in like that. Like, the conversation would go more like, and I like to just talk about real life scenarios, because people would be like, well, how am I even going to talk to somebody? If you think somebody could be a good fit to be an owner, and you think they have good leadership skills and they maybe have the finances, right? Because all those things are important. To meet with them in any meeting that you would have, your weekly, your monthly, your quarterly, and say, talk to me about your goals. Would you ever want to be an owner? Like, whether we open another salon and maybe, to possibly be a part of that, or like keep it super general. If they're like, oh, that's the last thing I do, it's like, oh, well, how come? Oh my God, it just looks so hard. Yeah, it's not easy, you know? But so what are your goals then? So organically be pivoting to that, instead of going in with like some NDA because you want to talk to somebody about it. Because they could say, I'm not going to sign it, I'm not interested, I won't talk to anybody, and they're in the back room talking about it. So I think it's like feeling it out. What are your goals? Have you ever thought about being an owner? What do you think your next steps are? You know, just feeling it out. Once somebody says, you know what, I actually would think about it, I have been thinking about it, it's like, oh, well, I'm sure happy to talk to you about that. Do you want to engage in a conversation about it? And I'd love to talk to you about that, but it is a very personal conversation. It's something that, you know, we surely would not be able to share with the team. I would need you to sign a non-disclosure agreement. So it would need to be like that.
That's very delicate. You're right.
It's
That was a very delicate and very good way to bring that conversation.
I mean, it's like if it's going to be someone internal, I'm telling you, you just do not want to go yammering on, because you might have an intention the way something is put across. Somebody else is going to have a different perception, and their perception is the story they're going to tell. So
Mm.
it's just really, it's very delicate. Um, Once somebody says, yeah, you know what, I am interested in going into business with you, or I mean, they don't know that you're still thinking of selling.
Okay.
I recommend to my clients, and I even worked with a friend of mine out of Chicago who has an interior design company and helped him sell his business. He did a succession plan, and it was the same exact procedure that he did, that I did, that I coach people on. So he just, as of December 31st, finalized his sale to a person that worked for him, that we worked on his deal for about 6 months. um, I would recommend creating an entire slide presentation for somebody after they've signed the NDA. And the slide presentation would include um, about the business, the history of the business, even though they may know it, like literally a business presentation, and the revenue of the business, the revenue over 3 years, maybe the profit over 3 years, maybe the valuation, maybe not. You can keep the valuation to yourself. No one needs to know what your valuation says. You can put a price tag on whatever you want to put a price tag on. You don't have to show the valuation. So there's different ways to create a presentation around it. But I think a presentation takes somebody on a journey to understanding what's in it for them. I would also have a slide in there of what is in it for you if you're an owner. What are the tax write-offs that you can have? What are the benefits around travel when you open your own business, or the other benefits that you have when you have your own business? You have to lay those out for people. People don't have, maybe haven't ever thought about it, and they don't know what all of the cool benefits are to owning your own business. So I would create a business presentation, if once that NDA is signed, to really take somebody through, not just sit and like have this casual conversation over coffee about how much you're going to charge for your business. I think that could just kill a deal before you even start a deal. So
I love
helping
the
people.
idea of a presentation
Yep.
because it allows you as the owner to draw the picture for them, because otherwise
Yep.
you're telling a story and you allow them to create the picture in their own head. And
No,
I think that that's great because you're taking them down the journey of a perspective that they probably have not thought about
no.
entirely. They might have seen some of these things happen along the way if they've been with you for a long time, but they haven't seen it from your owner's vision.
And the other thing is that I want to get across is you are, I'm going to use the word nursing for lack of a better word, your buyer from the time you sign that NDA, and hopefully until the day it closes. It's not like, so it's like, even in that presentation, the last slide is next steps.
Mm.
And I have somebody for you to talk to. And I can, it is literally, there is, and in both deals that I did, there was not a moment, a day, a week that went by that I was not involved in how they were doing. Who did they talk to? Oh, did you talk to the banker? Did you get the da da da? Where are we now? I mean, there were meetings constantly. And so you are really nursing that deal through to the end. And it takes a long time from initial conversation until final closure of the deal. And then after that, it's how do we present it to the team? And that
Mhm.
has to be very thought out, because the last thing you want to do is have a walkout right after somebody buys it. So there are so many delicate elements to selling it, not just finding your buyer, but the whole way through.
Um, I feel like we could talk about this for a whole nother hour, and
Me
we're trying
too.
to find the time. But after you mentioned the team, so like, did that happen within one-on-ones? Was that like a group discussion and a big team meeting? Like, what did that look like for you?
After the signing of the deal, um, we called a meeting, a team meeting, which we had all the time. So it was not like something new. We did meetings every 4 to 6 weeks. So it wasn't something new. So we called a meeting and we said we were having this meeting about whatever it was. And it was a and in our meetings, we always celebrated growth for people. Someone got promoted, and someone's education director, someone moved to master stylist. Like there's always like these promotional things. So I did this whole ceremony of the next people to be promoted, and people were like, what are you talking about? And so I did this whole thing about a promotion, and they're like, I go, you have two people getting really big promotions, and with this last one that I just sold. And I'm like, I'm going to have, Nadia and Michael come up. Michael was my manager for 17 years. Nadia was a stylist for me for 20 years. She came in from beauty school. It was the only salon she ever worked in. And she is almost like my daughter. I mean, it was like and I orchestrated their partnership because I was like Fiddler on the Roof, right? Like I knew that they would have a perfect partnership. So again, I'm strategizing on how to keep this going. And they were like, well, how are they getting promoted? And I'm like, they're your new boss. And the people were just like happy and floored. And and then everyone had to process, and it was about a 90-minute processing meeting, and then a lot of one-on-ones after, to just like because I mean, my gosh, right, like 30 years it's been.
Yeah.
So people that have been with me for a really long time were just like, what does this mean? So we had to lay out what that meant for everybody, and that I was still going to be involved, because they still wanted me to do coaching with them once a month, which because of the type of sale that we did. And so I'm still very involved. I mean, I was in there yesterday.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting because I think the way that you told the team is like a celebration. It was a
Yes.
positive thing. You were very involved, and it wasn't necessarily a secret, but it sort of was a secret until it was able to be shared. But I think that the way that you approached it was a really carefully crafted, creative way to do it.
I want to just say, and I love that you picked up on that, and I don't think that this is said enough, is that whenever we are in front of our team doing a regular meeting or celebration, we always do celebrations, we don't really call them meetings. As a leader, you choose the narrative.
Mhm.
You could have a dark, heavy, scary narrative, or you could have a celebratory narrative. It doesn't mean people are going to process necessarily differently, but we have the power to create every narrative in our marketing, in our team meetings, in our huddles, in our one on ones. We have to be very conscious in the narrative we are creating, always, in how people see, view, and perceive things. So it took a long time to create that meeting. I worked on it for a month, what I
Mhm.
was going to say. I wrote my speech down. My mom was there, who was my initial business partner. I mean, it was crafted to the T. Are there things I could have done better? I think so in retrospect, because it was like the first time I did it that way. But I feel like it went amazing, and they're doing fabulous. I mean, it's been about 8 months, and they're thriving,
That's
thriving,
amazing.
and
Yeah.
and all of it is because of how it was crafted. That doesn't happen on accident.
Hmm.
So it takes a long time to put the pieces in place to have a seamless outcome, even though it feels painful along the way, which it does feel sometimes.
So ultimately, you create a business plan to open your business. you create an exit plan to close your business or to sell your business. And so I think that's just an aha for people watching, is when you think like, I'm selling tomorrow, you had to start at least a year ago at the very minimum.
At least.
Yeah.
I mean, I started in 2019, then COVID hit. Valuations changed. One of my businesses I never reopened. I chose to just close it, which I was in negotiations for a
Mhm.
sale prior to COVID that ended up going out the window. So, like, you have to just be agile and persistent and hopeful always, like looking for opportunities always and not get defeated. But look, that's being in business for 32 years.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you got to be persistent,
Yeah. And curious. And you said that earlier. And I think
curious.
that's always a good stuff. Be curious about everything and always. It doesn't mean you're always acting on it, but you're, stripping more questions. Okay,
Yeah.
so we are the top, but I don't want to leave without
I
a
know we have
couple.
some questions in
Oh,
here,
okay, let me
right?
check. I do want to know also, oh yes, this is recorded and yes, it will go out to anybody that registered. Um, oh, so this is one of the questions I was going to ask you, as somebody did ask it, but if you were going to do it all over again today, what would you do differently? So like, what were some of the biggest, lessons that you had learned along this journey?
For the sale part of it.
Yeah, yeah. Or the sale and the transition, like collectively, when you look at you exiting the business, like maybe it was the sale part, or maybe it was the communication, or maybe it was any piece of it. Like, is there something
The
that you,
only thing I would do different, the only thing, and I felt really prepared with the meeting that we had and my speech, but the only thing I would do different is share, and this is only specific to this specific sale, is to share with the team that I would continue to be involved over the next 7 years.
mm,
Not involved in running it, but that I would be coaching the new owners and that they always had my ear. You know what I mean? Which I ended up having to talk to people about, because for the next week I had staff calling me and they were like, it was a lot. But that's it. I don't think I feel like I was very prepared and it was very thought out and it didn't happen quickly. So I
mhm,
had time to really map out every next step that happened.
mhm. That's a good one. Okay, well, I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to share how people can get in touch with you. So, like, if people are looking to put the strategy in place and they want to work with you as a coach, how can they reach you?
um, Through you. And also, just you can go to my website at carriedavisconsulting.com, and that's KERI, carriedavisconsulting.com. And there is a button on my website that says to schedule a complimentary discover call. I want to do a few filters really quickly. I work with employment-based businesses, not rental businesses, because a rental business is a whole different ballgame. But you can email me at carriedavisconsulting.com. I have recommendations for people that do specialize in rental businesses. But my coaching is specific to employment-based businesses.
I did put your website and email in the chat. So
Perfect.
I think it was disabled. Maybe we can't chat into it, but you can grab the links from there. So I was
Perfect.
able to grab that. Check the website. And of course, yes, you can always reach out to anybody at Aura. If you don't have the contact, we'll make sure that we get them in touch with you, Carrie, because I do feel very strongly about this conversation, and that people should have this plan, and we want to be able to
Yeah.
encourage them and help them find the resource like yourself to create that plan and make sure that their business runs the way that they're looking for it to go. Is there anything, final words that you would like to leave everybody with before we go?
I think my final word is to start planning now for whatever your future goals are. Like, take the step now so that you're ready when you want to do it. You don't have to then wait another 5 years or 10 years to do what you want to do in your life. So that's it. That's always, I just want people to enjoy what they're doing and plan for their future.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for being here and for all
Thank
the
you for
deep
having me.
kind of words of wisdom and everything that you have and sharing your experience in the journey that you've gone down. I know that it's definitely going to be helpful. We'll share out the recording. Anybody that registered will get this and can watch it back, and your contact went out. So if anybody needs help,
Awesome.
awesome.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Have a great day. Bye.